Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. You can see we're in the studio. You know it's live. You know what to do. Get involved in the chat and the comments. We want to hear from you. We're going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news. Of course, tomorrow, the big game, the Carabao Cup final. Probably the most important trophy there is to win. I think this is it. I think it's probably Carabao, then the Europa, then the Premier League, then the FA Cup, then the Champions League. I'd put it in those orders, or that order. That's how I'd go with it anyway, but you may disagree. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to talk about whether Marcus Rashford will be fit. Not much of an update, but we'll go over what's been said so far and see if we can pick the bones through that. We'll also be looking at the takeover, of course. That's news that's dominating all the headlines at the minute. What's going to happen? Who's going to take over? What does this mean? And it also looks like whichever bid is successful, we may have a new stadium at the end of it. Even if it's, you know, one bid or the other, it won't make much of a difference. So we'll get into all that as well. So make sure you are getting involved in the chat and the comments. Let us know what you think about these stories and anything else you may know. Jakia Trot says, morning, Jay. Ryan Turner says, morning, Uncle Jay. Tyler Wood, morning, Jay. Brian Casey, morning, Jay. Martin P says, morning, Jay. Sound better than you did. Yeah, I've cleared up a little bit there. I was proper bunged up yesterday. Apologies if you had to listen to my heavily bunged up Mancunian tones yesterday morning and afternoon as well, because I was on videos all day. But I'm feeling a little bit more like my old self, which is always a good thing. Right, should we talk about Marcus Rashford? Because there you can see, will Marcus Rashford be fit tomorrow? Erik ten Hag gave his press conference yesterday and he was asked the question and he was pretty honest. He said, well, we'll get into this. He said, I don't know. Players are now coming in. We have to do investigations. Medical, of course. Yesterday we did. So straight after a game, most of the time you can't say. You have to wait for 100% diagnosis. Let's do the medical. The work, we have to wait. So we don't know yet, do we? Now, there's two ways to look at this. One is it's mind games. Erik ten Hag's thinking, yeah, I'm going to give them a bit of hope. I'm going to make them worry about, you know, oh, maybe we don't have to worry about Marcus Rashford. Maybe it's going to be something different. Are we going to be okay here? This is a massive boost for us. And then, boom, the teams are announced and Marcus is in the starting 11. Or he can genuinely not know. I think he might not have known at the time. I think that straight after the game, as he said, we saw Marcus was limping. Sometimes you can't assess if there's any swelling, things like that. You have to wait till it's gone down. It looked like it was, I don't know, was it an impact injury? I think it was, wasn't it? So that is usually better if you can have a better injury than if he's pulled something. We'll have to wait and see. It'd be devastating for both Manchester United and Marcus Rashford if he didn't play in the Carabao Cup final. But fingers crossed he will. We'll have to wait and see. I think we're just going to have to wait and see what happens tomorrow afternoon when the teams are announced at 3:30, because at the minute we just don't know. Get involved in the comments. How do you view this? Do you think this is mind games? Do you think there is something to be worried about? Because Marcus was limping. I don't think he was pretending to limp when he came off against Barcelona, and he obviously didn't want to come off. He wanted to see the game out and play, but he had to come off. He was injured, so we'll have to wait and see. Brian Casey says, happy anniversary to Marcus Rashford. What 7 years he's had. Glenn F says, I will be gutted for Marcus if he misses the final and the rest of the team. Prav Bav Candleway says, Marcus is fit. Erik ten Hag playing games. Alex Reed says, Glazer's out, please. Glenn Buckley says he will definitely be back tomorrow. Magnum Skywolf says, morning, Jay. Hit the like button. There's almost 700 people watching. We've yet to get to 100 likes. Let's get to 300 likes by the end of this video, right? Let's keep going until we get to 300 likes. Should we try that, yeah? Hit that like button. Come on, you can do it. Listen, before we get into the next story, I want to talk a little bit about homophobia. We've seen an increase in homophobic online trolling. Obviously, it's not something any of us want to see, and it is, you know, proper distasteful. Me and Joe had a little bit of a chat about it because there's a campaign being launched to try and tackle the issue. Check this out. So with all this takeover talk, we've had a lot more discussions recently about the LGBTQ community when it comes to football. We've been speaking about the Rainbow Devils and stuff like that. And unfortunately, what we know and what we sort of realised is that homophobia is the #1 online form of abuse when it comes to football. Yeah. We see quite a lot of it. We've seen quite a lot of it recently, and it's been really disheartening.
Yeah, really disheartening, and I think that's why EE have come together to put forward Hope United, which is a team dedicated to tackling online abuse in all of its forms.
Yeah, because I think they've got LGBTQ plus History Month in February, so it's sort of the right time. Well, it's always the right time to address these issues, but it's only a more pertinent time, because what I've seen a lot of with stuff like homophobia is, it reminds me a little bit of where we were when it came to racism, sort of 20 years ago. When I was a kid going to the football, you used to, now and again you'd hear racism, and sometimes that'd go unchecked.
Yeah.
But then it got to the point where it didn't go unchecked, and if you heard it, someone would call it out. Someone would either go and get a steward, or they challenge whoever was, was being racist. And I think that's what we're gearing towards when it comes to homophobia. We're asking that people don't let it go unchecked, that you do address it. Now, you may not feel comfortable challenging it, but if you can do, or you can get someone to challenge it, or if you see it online, to call it out, to sort of say that's not acceptable. It
needs to be challenged as well, because that's how things change, by people thinking, I can't say that because people won't like me if I do. And that's where we need to get to, because so often it's sort of put down as banter or something that, well, I didn't mean it, it was just a joke, but it's not a joke. Homophobia needs to be called out whenever possible. EE have got Joe Cole and comedian Tom Allen to do 3 weekends of gay VAR, where they're going to be looking at different events that take place in the footballing calendar that tend to see these spikes in homophobic abuse on social media, analysing them and seeing what we could do differently.
Because it's obviously a problem. I think the stats show that around 3/4 of people in Britain agree homophobia in football is a problem. Those stats are even higher when you look at the LGBTQ plus community, where I think it's like 88% believe there is an issue around homophobia in football. So we're not talking about something that's rare here, or something that's doesn't affect people. It affects everyone. And when you look at it and you look at those stats, you realise that, look, everyone acknowledges there's an issue. Everyone can see there's an issue. What can be done about it?
But then only 21% of people say they would actually call it out if they saw it. And that's the number that needs to increase. If we all agree it's a problem, we know that, the fact that there are no professional openly gay footballers in England tells you...
In the men's game.
Tells you there's an issue. Tells you there's the idea that wouldn't be accepted. And it needs to be accepted. And again, you need to get that number from 21% of people who would challenge it and call it out up to 100. If you hear it, you see it, you need to call it out.
And I love this idea as well of having this Hope United and having obviously people like Joe Cole involved as well, and the gay VAR sort of idea as well, because we have to look at different ways of addressing it. We can't just let it go unchecked and just think that more of the same is going to work. And that's why EE and Hope United have got this idea, and hopefully we can start making some steps forward, because you want to be able to go to the game and enjoy it regardless of your background, your ethnicity, or your sexual orientation. You should be, football is a game for all. You want to be able to go online and enjoy talking and discussing and watching football without seeing homophobia, and this should be the first step, or an important step, towards combating that. So yeah, it's really good to see this initiative, and hopefully it'll be the first of many. So, important messages there. Make sure you check out Hope United. There's a link in the description. Go and have a look. Listen, no one likes to see online abuse. I've been, trolled before. I've had racist abuse online, and homophobic abuse as well is rife. Well, it's far too much of it. Any is too much, so go and check that out, and hopefully we can do our bit to help call it out and to stop it. Let's not let it go unchecked. I want to talk about one of my favourite ever footballers saying one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard. Now, Wayne Rooney, is a legend. Now, the word legend is bandied about far too often, and we give it to anyone who's ever kicked a football or, worn a United shirt, and he's a legend. Oh, he played twice, he's a legend. And sometimes we go a little bit OTT with it. But I think a guy who is United's all-time top goal scorer, who won multiple Premier Leagues, who won the Champions League, who gave us so many great memories, who was an absolute giant on the pitch for Manchester United, is a legend. But he's come out with something really odd. Now, I saw this on Twitter and I thought it was a misquote or a joke, or he was having a laugh himself or whatever. But it seems this is accurate. So Wayne Rooney, speaking about the Glazers, he said, firstly, I think the Glazers have done a fantastic job. They've been at the club they signed me in 2004. So they've been at the club for 20 years now. And I think they've always allowed managers to bring the players in they want. Now, I'm not a mathematical genius by any stretch of the imagination. I just scraped a C, GCSE maths, back in the 90s. And I was pretty chuffed with that, to be honest with you. But, and forgive me if I'm wrong here, and by all means, get involved in the comments and the chat and let me know. I thought the Glazers took over in 2005. I thought the Glazers took over after we'd signed Wayne Rooney. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing Process, being at Process around 2005 when they were taking over. So, am I getting this wrong, or is Wayne Rooney? Now, far be it for me to question a Manchester United legend, but I'm almost certain the Glazers didn't sign Wayne Rooney. So, what's he on about there? Also, the Glazers have done a fantastic job. Really? Have they? He goes on to say, I think it's clear the fans want change, and it looks like the Glazers are open for that change to come with putting the club up for sale and receiving the bids they have received. So hopefully they get the right people in, and it's people who are going to try to move the club forward. Now, I like the last bit, and it's people who's going to try and move the club forward, and I agree with that. But Wazza, you might be the White Pele, yeah? You might go by the name of Wayne Rooney, but come on, bro. What are you on about? They've not done a fantastic job and they didn't sign you. So maybe he's getting a bit confused. He thinks, well, they signed me, so they must be good. No, they didn't. So I don't know what all that is about. Let's just answer this though quickly, because some people, especially non-United fans, and I have this argument with them a lot of the time, hit the like button as well. You might not like what that comment was about Wayne Rooney, but let's get to 300 likes. Come on, we can do this, people. Like, I have this argument with people where they go, what are you United fans moaning about? You spent 89 million quid on Paul Pogba, 80 million quid on Harry Maguire, 67 million quid or whatever it was on Angel Di Maria. You've spent 50 million on Wan-Bissaka. You've spent 60 million on Casemiro, whatever it is. You've spent money. You're still in and around the top of the table. You're in the hunt for trophies. You're in a cup final. You've been to other cup finals. You've had runs in, Europe and all this sort of stuff. But look at the mismanagement that's gone on. Look at the money we've wasted. Look at the debt we're still in. Look at the dividends they keep giving themselves. They've literally spent none of their own money on the club. They're the only owners in the Premier League who have spent nothing on their own club. And also, look at how far we've fallen behind on every metric. Yeah? We've fallen behind on the pitch. Eric Ten Hag's now got us back challenging. But during the last sort of, since Fergie retired, we've gone from Premier League champions to finishing 6th twice, I think. Did we finish 6th twice? Oh no, actually 3 times. I think we finished 6th under Van Gaal once, didn't we, when we won the FA Cup? 6th under Ollie in his first season where he was caretaker and then permanent manager, and 6th last season. So we finished 6th 3 times. That would never have happened before the Glazers during the Premier League era. We finished 7th, I think, during the Moyes time, by the end of Moyes' season. Champions League is no longer a given when it was. We've not obviously won a title since 2013, when we were always challenging for titles before the Glazers got involved. And Champions League wins and finals, forget about it. We've won what have we won in the Champions League? 1 knockout game in the Champions League, is it? Since 2013, something like that. So, football-wise, we've fallen behind. That's due to their mismanagement. That's due to them not putting in football people to make football decisions. If you look at Manchester City, right, I know City have spent a lot of money. I know how they're funded and all that sort of stuff. But they've also created a structure where you can have success. Mancini, Pellegrini, Guardiola have all won titles. Pellegrini's not a managerial genius, neither's Mancini. Some may even argue that Pep's just an excellent manager who's been back the right way. He's not really done it in the Champions League with City, has he? So it's not just a case of, they've spent some money. We haven't spent it in the right way because we haven't had football people in charge. At City they have. At Liverpool they have. Liverpool have spent around the same as us. I think they might have even spent over the last 10 years even a little bit less. But they've won a Champions League, won a Premier League, because they've had a manager and or someone above him who knows what they're doing, and they've backed him the right way. So it's the mismanagement of how we spent money and backing the managers, not backing them, all that sort of stuff. The stadium, which I'm going to get to in a minute, is falling apart. I stand up, I'm in a TRA, I stand up throughout the game. At half-time, sometimes, because I'm getting old, I'll sit down for half-time, yeah? If I sit down, and I'm only 5'11", I'm not that tall. I know I look about 5'1" when I'm stood next to Joe, that's because he's huge, he's 8'3". But when I sit down, my knees are against the seat in front of me, it's not comfortable. And if my lads around me all sit down, it's almost untenable. You've got leaks in the roof. It's just not good enough. The stadium's falling apart. How's the stadium crumbling like that? Then you get into Carrington, the training ground, which when the Glazers took over was state-of-the-art. They've not done out with it since. Now and again, someone will cut down some trees or put some cameras up or take some cameras down. That's not revamping training facilities. And also, if I want to go and watch under 23s, why have I got to go and drive to Leigh Sports Village? We're falling in? That's not even a word. We're falling behind, and we've fallen behind our rivals. We're seeing City and Liverpool win trophies, or we've seen them win trophies when we haven't. We've seen other clubs have new stadiums, have stadium that's fit for purpose. Well, we've got one that's crumbling. You saw, was it Casey Stoney, when she left as the manager of the women's team, sort of citing the fact that there was, didn't the women's team have to go to porta cabins to use the toilet or something ridiculous like that when they were training? Come on, man. Like, the Glazers have let this club decline. They have. They've taken money, kept us in debt, not done the basics with the infrastructure, and not really cared enough. And we had statements, didn't we, from Ed Woodward, like, it doesn't matter, success on the pitch doesn't affect the marketing or whatever. And they haven't put football people in place. And they haven't done what they said they were going to do. Have a dialogue with the fans, get rid of the debt, and keep Manchester United competitive. They haven't done any of those things. Now we're competitive because of Erik ten Hag. So it's just, I'm not having this that they've done a good job. And I'm sorry, Wayne Rooney, I love you. You're a great player. You were a great player for Manchester United, one of my favourites. But I don't agree that they've been fantastic. I don't think they have at all. People may disagree. James Wood says, Jay, you work so hard, lad, and you're an excellent journalist. Can't wait for Cup final tomorrow. This manager gets this club. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hit the like button. Yeah. Slow Tokyo says, didn't he state the Glazers as the reason he wanted out in 2010? Love Wazza, but oh dear. Yeah, do you remember when he wouldn't sign a new deal? And he was saying that one of the reasons was that, United weren't buying the right players. We weren't challenging again. Now, listen, don't let what Fergie say confuse and people say, oh, there's no value in the market, whatever. There was times when we didn't go that extra mile when we needed to in the transfer market. We let Tevez and Ronaldo go and brought in Obertan, Valencia and Michael Owen. Now, I know Valencia ended up being a good player, is a good player, but he's not a good replacement for Ronaldo and Tevez. Owen was next to useless, and Obertan, don't get me started. Come on, people. This is a point. Brian Casey says, Jay's son plays for United, so he's not going to slate them, and there's a chance they could stay. That makes sense. I get it. Mesh V says, are the Glazers going to stay, in your opinion, Jay? Very, very good question. Should we look at some of the other latest news as well regarding this? Because there's a couple of little sort of twists and turns there. Now, it appears this is a story in the Mail. Ahead of the game, American hedge fund, which has proposed buying a majority stake in Man United, are willing to fit the $2 billion bill to redevelop Old Trafford, even if they don't succeed. So it says Elliott Management, and these are the people that owned AC Milan, are prepared to foot the bill for Old Trafford redevelopment. Now, there was talk that Elliott Management could fund some form of way of the Glazers staying. There was also talk that Joel and Avram Glazer, two of the Glazer lot, were reluctant or had reservations about selling. Now, according to this, if this hedge fund or whatever, or these management people, an American hedge fund, are successful, or even if they're not, they're willing to provide money for the redevelopment of Old Trafford, which could cost up to $2 billion. So it looks like we could have a new stadium no matter what. It says there as well, Elliott's offer for Man United is one of the three that's been made public after Qatar Bank chairman Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani and Sir Jim Ratcliffe issued statements confirming their bids. So, on the one side, you go, ooh, looks like we could be getting a new stadium no matter what. On the other side, you go in, hang on a minute, isn't this the hedge fund that were making noises that this could enable the Glazers to stay? I personally think the Glazers will go. I don't know. I'm not ITK. I've always been at pains to make that point clear. I don't know anything. I only know what I read in the papers and on Twitter. So you're as ITK as me. But it's just a feeling I've got that this is the end game for them. It is a little bit concerning when you see low hedge fund involvement and these suggestions that they've got reservations. They need to go. They do need to go. Now, just on the takeover, what is next for the takeover? Because everyone's a bit sort of, anxious to see what happens. We've got the Sir Jim Ratcliffe bid, got this Elliott Management Fund, hedge fund, whatever you want to call him. You've got Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani also as well. So there's a story in the evening news where they're sort of doing this inside story about what's going to happen what we can expect next. So the bids obviously were 2 formal proposals. See, they're saying 2 formal proposals, and then the Mail are saying there's that the Elliott Management Fund as well, so it's all a bit confusing. They're saying it's a 2-horse race for the club between Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sheikh Jassim. So I think you can see the difference there. The Qatari bid promised to return the club to former glories by purchasing 100% of the club, whilst Ratcliffe, who represents the British bid, is understood to be interested in acquiring 69% of the shares. I think, is that the Glazer shares? That would make him the majority shareholder, just as the Glazers are now. So what happens next? To begin with, the 2 bidders will be given access to a data room where relevant financial information about the club will be made available to reveal the value of assets and debts, etc. They're going to do this due diligence, whatever you want to call it. They're going to have a look at it. They're going to examine it. They're going to put their accounts, put it to their accountants, and then there's going to be some sort of auction process. We'll wait and see. I'm not going to get into all that because, frankly, I'm bored of it already. But we'll see what happens. It's already causing a bit of division in it. People wanting one bid, people wanting another. I want the Glazers gone. I'm not going to lie to you. We'll have to wait and see who comes in and takes over. We have got to 300 likes. I'm pleased to see that. I'm going to touch on another story briefly because this was doing the rounds last night, and I know, I think it's worth mentioning. There was a story doing the rounds that Mason Greenwood's girlfriend's pregnant. Now, we know with the story of Mason Greenwood at the minute is the charges against him were dropped. The club are doing an investigation, I believe, their own personal investigation or in-house investigation. We've heard that he has spoke to Erik ten Hag. There are reports that some players have reservations or are unhappy with him returning to the squad. We've also heard that certain members of the women's team wouldn't feel comfortable with this. If he was returned to the squad, we don't know what's going to happen yet. And I'm loath to sort of get into sort of speculating until we know. There is a club investigation. We'll see where that leads and what the outcome is and what that means for Mason Greenwood. But it's obviously a very emotive topic and a very sort of divisive issue as well. I think there's some people that are saying bring him back. There's some people that are saying he's done. Others sort of saying, wait and see what happens. But once that investigation is concluded, I think we'll have a clearer picture as to whether Mason Greenwood has a future at Manchester United Football Club. Right, I'm going to wrap it up there. We are going to the Carabao Cup final tomorrow. Yeah, I'm going to be down there. Mac is going to be there. Steve's going to be there. I don't know if he's got a ticket yet, but I think he's going to be there. Joe's going to be there. So make sure you are too. We've got the watch along. We've got the preview out later today. We're going to have the post-match reaction tomorrow where hopefully Erik ten Hag will be lifting his first bit of silverware as manager of Manchester United. So make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Don't forget to go and check out the campaign. Hope United. We need to tackle homophobia in football. It's a big issue and hopefully with your support we can help deal with it. I've been Jay Motti. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.